Hey, and welcome to the Figma for Writers webinar. This is the first time in the world that there was a webinar that is all dedicated for writers that related to design tools. So I'm happy that we did it. Things wasn't exactly like I was planning it to be. I planned to do a project, which is the new website of our podcast, Writers in Tech. But we had to cover a lot of the basics during the session, and I guess that we will need much more than 1 hour in order to cover everything on Figma. But I do feel that we covered the basic stuff. So if you're new to any design tool, if you want to learn how to work with components, how to create shapes, how to create color styles and text styles, so the webinar is definitely for you. The structure of that webinar is a bit weird, I must say, but try to follow along. There was many questions during the webinar. A lot of people asked me stuff, and I wanted to answer everybody. It is the first time that I'm doing something like that, so yeah, I was very excited, and yeah, I just wanted to answer all of the questions. I think that next time I will just stick with the agenda and just answer questions like every 10 minutes or every 15 minutes or something like that. I'm going to add in the show notes also everything that I've mentioned in the webinar, like Atomic Design by Brad Faust, or a link to the wireframe design system that I'm working with, or a list of different shortcuts. So that's about it. Enjoy the webinar and have a great day. Thank you. All right, so we have a question from Barbara before we start. I was using Figma for some tasks lately, and I'm finding myself duplicating a lot of documents because I'm afraid to lose stuff and ideas. How do you do it? So there is a really cool technique that actually Greta taught me, and she called it Greta's Playground. So what she's doing basically, and I'm going to talk about how to create pages on Figma soon, but in case you already know what pages are, so here on the side you have different pages, and let's say that you want to play with a copy of a single document. I recommend to press right-click, duplicate a page, and call it maybe Barbara's Playground, or any other name, actually. But now you can, iterate with a copy of all of those screens. You can duplicate them many times and just have different iterations and with content design in this playground page. And then, don't be afraid to lose any piece of content because of it, because this is your zone and then nobody can touch it, or you just define that nobody will touch it. Did it answer your question? All right, so I don't know if other people can see your chat messages, but it did answer your question, which is amazing. All right, so we can start now. It's 7 p.m. here in Israel. Welcome to the InVision webinar. I'm very, sorry, not InVision, but but Figma webinar. I'm very excited to have you here. Today, I'm going to talk about, how to use Figma as writers. I'm going to explain about the UI of this tool. If you have any questions along the way, feel free, because I know it can be a little bit overwhelming. Let me just close all this stuff. Great, so feel free to ask questions. Basically, we have here the agenda. So we are going to speak a little bit about collaborations using Figma, wireframes, design, prototyping, and I'm going to cover different stuff, which is going to be very basic. Then I'm going to tell you how I approach a new project. This is an actual project that I'm working on, which is the new website of Writers in Tech podcast, which is our new podcast. So we had to define in our team what is the mission of this website, and we had to sketch it with pen and paper. And today I worked on those wireframes, and during this session, hopefully we can also do the user interface of the website while I'm explaining about the basics of this tool. It might be overwhelming, but it's not that complicated. And your job as writers is to have better collaborations with designers. Let's make sure that it's recording. Yes, it's recording. And in order to have better collaborations with designers, it's really important that you would know how to operate these amazing design tools. To be honest, Figma is not my go-to. This is not my favorite tool in the world. I'm not working for Figma. And I used to use Sketch a lot. So a lot of people ask which kind of design tools we should use. And I want to refer here an article. 1 second. Design tools survey. Right, so I want to refer an article that is talking about all of the design tools that designers used in 2018. I'm going to send it here in the chat as well. 1 second. Okay. I will just share this article later on. I don't want to take too much time, but basically, I used to use Sketch a lot. I created all of the websites on Sketch, and we have a problem with Sketch today because Sketch works only on Mac, and it costs $99. And Sketch also don't have a collaborative feature, which is a big problem because the fact that Figma have a collaboration feature allows so many writers to be involved in the design process with the designers. It's basically like the Google Docs of designers. So all of the members of the team can work on the same file, for example. So if I wanna invite people to join me and work with me on this file, I can just share it. And I just press share. And the people that I invite can edit or can view. I believe that if you want many, many users in your team to edit the same file, you need to pay extra. They have different kinds of enterprise models. But if it's only you and maybe one more editor, so it's completely free, which is another advantage of Figma because Sketch costs $99, works only on Mac, and Figma can work on PC, and it's completely free. So you can just copy this link, share it with your team member, and the writers and the designers can work on that same file, which is great. It is really, really great because like I explained before that, you can just, the designer can send you the link, you can take the wireframe of the project, for example. What we have here on the left side is the pages section, okay? So right now, before I started the project, I did the 3 different pages. The first page I did was inspiration. And when I'm saying inspiration in this manner, it means that I collected design patterns, different kinds of layouts that I want to put in my own website, which is the Writers in Tech website. And I put it in different kind of segments, like how I want a form to look like in my website, inspiration from different podcast websites, how the hero section is going to look like, other patterns, and so on and so on. So all I did here basically was just copying it, stuff from the web, and starting collecting inspiration to this section. It's very simple. If you work on Mac, and I work on Mac, so I press, this is a really cool trick. I press Command, Control, Shift 4. And let's try it right now. I press Command, Control, Shift 4. And now I just take a screenshot. And now it's already on my clipboard. So if I will press right now Command V, it's going to paste it on the Figma file. Brilliant. So that's what I do. I just like going through the web really quickly, start collecting inspirations, and this is what I'm doing with my inspiration page. So what you can do, just create you can add a new page. It can be a copy playground. And you can basically take inspirations of different copy from the web and start collecting it on this page. So this is really cool. And this is how we work with pages. Let me just delete that one. Cool. So that's what I did with the inspiration. Collected different kinds of patterns. The next step was to sketch the website with pen and paper. It's really important not to start with the design file. It's really important that you will sit with the designer and start sketching out different layouts based on your inspiration, based on your research, and start sketching with the designer how the wireframes are going to look like. If you are working already as UX writers, it means that you probably did your research and you have some kind of a content strategy that is related to this website. So you have different kinds of missions and agenda, and you know what the user goals are and what the business goals are. So you have some kind of idea in mind of what the website is going to be like. And that's about the planning part. So once you planned with pen and paper your project, it's time to go to your design tool. In this case, it's Figma, and start throwing those sketches as a wireframe. Okay, work with wireframes. And now I'm going to cover the very basics of Figma, so it will be very simple for you if you would like to create wireframes on your own. If a designer for some reason will hand out some kind of a feature to you, or will send you anything at all, so you could create some kind of a really quick wireframe with copy, because we believe in the content first approach, which means that we don't put the copy on the final design. When we finish the design, we put the copy first before even we start with the wireframes. So it's really important that that will be the part where the designers and writers will start to collaborate together, and that's the part that I want the copywriters to take more responsibility. Cool. So before we start, does someone have any question related to Figma right now? Anything at all? Something that you want me to cover during this session? Feel free. It's interactive. It's not pre-recorded. I'm here. It's live. I don't see any questions at the moment. Yeah, so Bauer asked, talk about components and where to get them or store them for different projects. So this is a good question. We're going to talk also about components after we will cover the basics, because I used also components to create these wireframes. And it's a very efficient way to create your design. So I will teach you that as well. And perfect. And so let's start. First of all, shortcuts is a really, really important thing that we need to speak about when we are working in Figma. And in order to create better workflow, and these shortcuts, by the way, work in Sketch and Adobe XD as well. It's very universal for all of the design tools. But if we take the structure of different web components, it mainly we're mainly speaking about rectangles and drop shadows and lines and very simple typography, and then nothing too complicated. So if you want to create a rectangle, for example, which is a very common shortcut, just press R, and then you can create your rectangle. If you want to keep it in a square shape, so just press Shift while you are working with the rectangle, and then it's going to maintain the square. Great. If you want to create a line, so just press L, and you will have a line. If you press shift, it will make sure that it will be vertical or horizontal or 45 degrees. So that's about creating lines. What else? Oh, there is also ellipse shape, which is O. Usually it's really common when you create some kind of avatars or profile or in the logins, stuff like that. So usually when I do it, I just press on shift. So that's about the very basic shapes. And also T is also a very common shortcut, T. This is the most important for you guys, which is the text tool. And then you can just decide what will be the boundaries of your text. And you press Command A usually, and you can decide if it's going to be here on the panel on the right. You can decide if this is very basic stuff, but if it's going to be a line to top, a line to center, or to the bottom. If you are creating different paragraphs, so you can just decide what's the spacing is going to be like, and what's the height of the line is going to be like, and what is the size of the paragraph. Another thing I want to talk about is creating styles. Okay, so when we work on a new project, and this is really important for also handing things to developers. So we want to have the same styles, which means that if we have this headline, for example, so this headline is going to be with exactly the same style as this headline and that headline, and we want to have the same style. So you press T, you create new copy, and let's say that we want that our copy is going to be 40 and medium, and the font is going to be reducted script. No, we don't want to use this font. This is the closest thing we have to Comic Sans. We're not going to use that one. Cool. Roboto slab. Perfect. So this is what we're going to choose as style. So it's really important to define components, which I'm going to teach you later on, and also to define styles, because both of them together is a deadly combination. It can save you so much time. And yeah, so I'm just going to teach you how to do that. So here we have an icon of for 4 dots. So if you want to add this specific copy as a style, so we just press this one and we add it as a style. And we need to decide if it's going to be a subheader, a paragraph, a button, a header, arrow, whatever. So we just add it, and let's call it test because I don't want to use it later on. Great. Now, for example, if I want to take this piece of copy and change it to this style guide, so I will just press this one and take it to the test text style, and it will be in the same font size, the same font, and all of the elements that we have in this style will be implemented in the new style. Okay, very, very important to use styles. Now, another thing that you can do is exactly the same thing with colors. So when we hand out a project to developers, usually, and by the way, Figma is a great tool to hand your projects to developers because they can take your screen, and we have here 3 tabs. So today, it's really funny because today we have design tools like Sketch, and we have prototyping tool like InVision, and we have like tools to hand out to developers like Zeppelin and stuff like that. So in Figma, it's basically 3 tools in one, and this is also another benefit of this tool. You can just send the developer the Figma file, and they can see the CSS of the screens inside of the file, which is great because let's say that they need this style and you are working, you are very organized and you are working with styles. So it will take the font size and the font, whatever font family it is, and they can just copy it to the CSS of their code. And then later on, then they can use it. And another thing that developers are doing is also working with styles, okay? They don't call it styles, but they're working, let's say that they have different framework, and I don't want to talk too much about developers right now, but let's say that they're working with frameworks like React or Angular, which is different kinds of frameworks that developers are working. So they can also build some kind of a design system or a style guide inside of their systems and then reuse it later on. Okay, so if you are going to work from day one with styles and you're going to repeat those styles, it's going to make the life of the developers much easier because they can just reuse the same code, the same colors, the same attributes that your style guide have. So it's a very great tool to create some kind of a mutual language with your developers, and the design system is a really important part of creating a design team that scales eventually, because you can build some kind of a database that everybody are aligned to. Super important. Okay, so that was about text styles. Let me know if you have any questions about that. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about color styles, which is similar thing, only with colors. So let's go back to the design tab. Great. And we can define, before we start the project, the styles, the color style of our project and the text styles of our project, and then just work with it when we design the project. So it's going to make our life easier. So the same goes with colors. We can just press the fill color. First of all, we choose a color. Let's choose just random red color for now. This is not red. Okay, so let's choose this red color. And let's add this color, this fill color, to our color style guide. They call it here color styles. And you can just add it here and test red. All right, so now we can just reuse it in our interface. Really important, color styles and text styles. And in a few seconds, I'm going to talk also about components and why they are so important when you combine them with all of the styles. Cool. Great. So I'm not going to talk about yes, I'm going to talk also a little bit about masks. So when you put pictures in user interface, so it's really important also to know how to mask them, and I will show you exactly. So you can just play with the fill color and you can just add an image. And for example, I just choose a really random picture for now. It's loading. 1 second. Great. So we have this picture, and basically what masks are, exactly like regular mask, we take a shape on top of another shape, and we will see only what the mask show us. So if we will take a very common use case is to build some kind of a profile, some kind of an avatar of a person. I will do a poll right now, which is, oh, I can't do the poll right now, but I have a question for you. What is the shortcut for creating a circle? Okay, tell me in the chat below. Who said it? Who said it? Who said it? C, no. Circle tool and shift, C, then it says C. No, actually everybody got it wrong. It's actually O. O, and I think it's O because of the word oval. I think so. But, exactly, Dennis got it right. But a fun thing about Figma is that if you want to see the shortcuts, you will have them right here. Okay, so you will see all of the shortcuts in Figma in your menus. Even if I'm going to press right click on this, for example, you can see all of the shortcuts. So I really recommend to take your time and mesmerize them a little bit, and then it will make your life really, really easy. So that's about the shortcut of a circle. And next time, get it right. Good. So for some reason on Figma, you need to put the mask behind the original picture. And I don't know why it works like that, because in Adobe products and Sketch products and Adobe XD, it doesn't work like that. And yeah, that's a bit weird. What can I do about it? But if I will press this one, or press the circle, and then I will press the picture. And by the way, I need to choose both of them together. And in order to choose both of them together, I need to press Shift, and then I can pick multiple elements. So if I press circle and then I press Shift, I basically chose both of them together. Now we have here a mask. So on top of the UI, you can just use as mask, and or press Command Alt M. Let's just press this button for now. And it didn't work. It didn't work. I hate Figma sometimes. This is one reason why to hate Figma. But if you want it to work, you just need to put it above the picture, which is weird. It is weird. Figma, come on. Just use bring to front, bring backward, or just play with the UI on the left if I want to bring stuff backwards and forward. And that's how I do it. And that's about it. So if this answer didn't answer your question, but this is what I do. So I just did a mask right now, and yeah, you can play around with the picture, and now it's much easier to see that the circle works as a mask. And yeah, this is a very common use case for creating avatar, profile, stuff like that. And yes, so if you choose the rectangle, and by the way, if you press Command R or Control R, it can rename your current layer or your current screen, which means frame. So I press Command R, and I'll change it to profile picture. And I will talk a little bit about naming convention here on the left, because and also the mask group, I will change it to avatar. Okay, it's really important to have, Dennis asked if I need to create a mask group first. So what I'm doing in order to create the mask, so I'm taking the picture, I'm taking the shape that I want to mask, I put the shape of the mask under the picture, and then in order to create a mask group, I just press this, use as mask, or you can just press Command Alt M and it will work the same. And you can also break the mask as well. That's about that. Yes, so now that it's masked, you can play around with it. I recommend to press Shift when you play with the pictures, because then you just lose it. So just press Shift, and then you can create some kind of avatar, maybe name of the person, Jon Snow. And just like in Google Docs, if you press Command B, it makes it bold. If you press Command I, it makes it, how do you call it? Italic, yes. And if you press Command U, and if you have PC, it's, by the way, instead of Command, just say Control, but Command U, it's if you want to have an underline. Okay, great. So let's press Command B again. Barbara will answer in a second. And now you can just create some kind of paragraph and sales manager. Great. Let's align this one also to the left. I press Command in order to choose this layer. I put it next to Jon Snow. Now I'm going to do something that I'm doing all the time, which is grouping two elements together. So I'm going to press Command G. And I'm going to rename this layer automatically because I really care, and we need to care. I don't really care, because I need to care more about naming convention, because it's really going to help our developers to read our design afterwards and to name their components in the code. So Command R, and I will call it name. Great. Now I will press this component, and this component, and I want to align them to the circle. This is something that you do most of the time, just align things also to each other, so it will be on some kind of a grid. Great. So here you have all of the elements that help you to align stuff to each other. Great. And that's about how to create some kind of element like that might be common. If you want to have the eyedropper tool, so you need to press I and then take like white color or something like that. Great. And let's group those together. Here, some kind of a drop shadow. This is a component that might be, I don't know, common. And now, like, I would probably pick this one, this group, and that one, and I will center them just like that. And I will group them together, and I will rename it as name or person. Great. Barbara is asking a question regarding the hierarchies and layer. How can I learn to name the layers and keep them tidy? I'm really messy. Okay, so this is a good question. There is something called Atomic Design by Brad Frost, which is the father of the design system. Let me just send you a link to it. Atomic Design, Brad Frost. And this is a method that say that you need to take the internet, break it into different, no, not the book, guys. Yes, so this is a method that helps you to organize your hierarchy from the buttons to the text of the buttons, all the way to, like he call it atomic web design. So you have pages, you have templates, you have organisms, which can be headers or different kind of search bars, molecules, which is if we're speaking about the header. So a molecule would be maybe a field that you have in the header, and the atoms will be buttons or text and stuff like that. So that's about atomic design. When you have the atomic design mindset, it's really easy for you to understand hierarchy of web design, and it will help me a lot to understand design systems much better. And that's about it. Okay. So I've sent to all panelists and Barbara the atomic web design methodology. I really recommend to go through it. I'm also going to send you, because I promised you before, the survey from 2018 that's saying that Figma is the most promising tool of 2019. Check it out. Cool. So that's about it. So that was about masking and about creating different hierarchies and names and groups. And if you look on the left bar, you can see here the hierarchy when you have a person, and then like you can call this group person. Let's call it profile content. And comment R, by the way, is how I rename stuff. Comment R, really, really important. And let's rename it and call it profile. Great. So now I want to speak about components. Okay. In Sketch, we call that kind of stuff Figma. In Sketch, we call this kind of stuff symbols and nested symbols. You might heard that name before. Here on Figma, they call it components. And I will explain exactly what is it. So, 1 second. Can you see me, by the way? I hope you can. Great, yes. Thanks, Denise. Cool. So now I'm going to speak about a component, which is also super important. So because I was organized, and I organized the naming convention of this section, and I used groups also. I grouped everything. So I press double click, and this is a group right here. And I press double click once again, and this is a group. Again, if I press double click again, this is also a component, not a component, but this is an atom inside of my whole organism, okay? And by the way, if you are outside of this group and you wanna pick only the name Jon Snow, you can just press Command, okay? And if you use PC, so it's Control again, and just pick the component that you wanna pick. So instead of pressing double click, which is exhausting, so you can just press Command, click, you got it. So now you're inside of the group, and it makes your life really easy. It's a really great hack. It's not even a hack, but it's something that you need to know if you wanna work fluently with this platform. Great. So we build this profile group. Right now it's a group. I'm going to make a component out of it. And component means that I could reuse it afterwards. And let me just explain with an example, and it will be much simpler. But first of all, remember that I created styles before. So now I'm actually going to use them. So before we started this, so I created this different style guides. This color, this headline. So let's just pick this one. And if I want to apply one of my styles on the name of Jon Snow, I just press on text, and I have these 4 dots on the right. And let's say that this is subheader. Great. Let's stretch it to the right. Great. Now the sales manager, I press Command and click it because I don't want to double click it all the way. And this will be paragraph. Great. By the way, if you are using the arrow tools, so down, left, up, right, it means 1 pixel down, 1 pixel up, or 1 pixel to the right. Okay, so when I'm doing like that, it means that I'm moving 1 pixel at a time. If you want to move 10 pixel at a time, so just press Shift, and you can move it 10 pixels every time. Just press Shift and the arrow keys. This is really, really useful. And another useful trick that I use is using some kind of, usually I don't put grid systems on my designs, but I make sure that it works with some kind of mathematics behind it. So let me explain. If I choose a different kinds of element and I press Alt, so I can see the distance of that element from all of the other elements. Okay, this is really, really important. So I most of the time make sure that the elements will be, I make sure that it could be divided by 8. You have different kinds of grid systems, complicated grid systems. You can even put here different grid systems. I just make sure that you can multiply or divide it by 8. And usually it works for me and it looks symmetric and it's okay. But just make sure that if, for example, you are creating some kind of a header like this one, and you have a button here, so you can press Alt and see that the number of the button from the edge, I press Alt right now, by the way, I can see that it's 40 pixels. So I want to make sure that also the logo on the left will also be 40 pixels because I want it to be symmetric. In order to check it, I double click on this, Alt, and I see that this is 40 pixels. And if it wasn't 40 pixels, if it was, I press Alt, I see it's 80, so I will press Shift and I will take 4 clicks to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. I press Alt again, and I can see that it's back to be 40 pixels from the left. So this is how I keep my designs symmetric and work with some kind of a imaginary grid system. I guess that this is not the best way to go, but this is just how I roll because I like to sketch stuff very, very fast. And so that's how I go. All right, so I want to speak about components, which is super, super important. Right, so one more thing. So I will take the sales manager and I will put the fill color as one of my styles. So I will choose the blue color. Great. Now we have this group, great, and it's called profile. And let's say that we're working on some kind of system or some kind of a dashboard that you need to present 5 different profiles. What should you do? So what I will do is I will duplicate this one. No, first of all, I will create a component. So this button right here, this is how you create a component. You can press also Command-Alt-K. Great. Now, this is your master component. You know it's your master component because of this symbol over here. And every duplication of this component is a son. It will be the son of this component. Let me explain because the example will make it so much clearer. So what you can do, first of all, you can go to assets, and under assets, you will have all of your components. So you can just drag it if you need to use it again and drag it, and you can use it on many, many different screens. Let's say, for example, that this website, so for example, this website have an header. So the header is a component, and every time I will change anything about this component, it will change the rest of the screen. So if I will change the subscribe button, for example, I will put it here. So it will change it here, and I don't have the header in those because we don't have header over there. So I will press Command-Z because I don't want to do this change, but components are really important for that. And for example, another use that you can do, if you combine it with what we've learned with the colors, for example. So let's say that we changed our design system right now, and we're not going to use the so Barbara asking, how do I change the, yes. So in order to change all of the screens, First of all, when you start your project, you need to define the components. And then once you change the master component, it's going to change all of the screens. For example, this is the master component of the homepage, and it repeats 3 different times. It repeats here and here. So if I will decide, I will press Command and I will change the background, for example, to red, it's going to change all of the other screens. Okay? Yes, so one second, you can just press right click on every component and just go to master component. Barbara just asked me, how do I know where the master component is if I can't find it? So we can just press any component, go to master, and then it will take you to the master component, okay? So that's where you find it. Yes, that's the trick for now. In Sketch, it works a little bit different because they have a completely separate page for components. In Figma, this is how it works. Just take you to the master, which is this one. So let me just show you, for example, one more time. We have here, this is the master component, and this is the son of this component, okay? If I will make a change here, it wouldn't affect the master component. It's not going to affect the master component. If I'm going to do the change here, okay, let me just double click. Oh, sorry. So if I want to make a change here, I need to detach instance, and now it's not part of the components anymore. Okay, now we can change it. Great. Now you can separate between the components and regular groups with colors. So components would be usually purple, and groups will be blue. Barbara asked another question, but do you have to remember where the master component sits? Oh, sorry, that's the last question. Okay, cool. Great. So if, for example, I will change the color here to red, it didn't change the master component. It just didn't, because this is the son of this one. But there is another cool trick that you can do. If you decide, Barbara, for example, that you want to change the red in everything, so you can just say reset instance. Sorry, reset instance, bring it back to what it was. But you can also change it like that. No. Sorry about that. If you want to make changes in your component, just go to the master component. In order to do that, go to master component. That's about it. If you want to make changes without affecting the master component, you can just detach it. As I said before, detach instance. Now it's just a regular group detached. And that's about it. Now I want to speak a little bit about the styles, okay? What we started with. So this blue color and this text is text style and color style, which is the sales manager. Now I can just go to this blue and edit it. Let's say that I want to make my platform purple, for example. So I'm going to change this color to purple. And it's going to change, when I change the style, it's going to change the component. And when I change the component, it's going to change the rest of the interface, okay? And this is how coders think. This is how developers think. So when you have that kind of mindset, it really helps to have a design system kind of mindset that really helps the product team eventually. And that's about changing the color. You can also, of course, change the text style. For example, let's say that you want to make it 20. So it's going to change everything. It's really, really cool. Let me show you another example, and more obvious example, like here. So I'm going to change here the color to this one. Let's, yes, change the color to this one. And now it's going to change it in all of my screens because I defined it as a component when I just started. But now I want to go back to my blue because I really hate this color right now. So I will just define it again. And I don't have my blue here. So I will go to this, say it's going to be this blue. So usually when I want a sample color, I just create a rectangle. Might be stupid, but I really like to do it. I take this rectangle, I sample color that I like, which is the color that I need, and I take it right here. And now I am going to define this color style again. You know what, let me just define it from scratch. I'll call it the real blue. Great. Let's choose the real blue. Now it's changed it. Now it's changed everything. Great. So that's about components. And I wanted to ask you a question if you have about components, because it might be complicated at first, but it's really useful at the end of the day. Why is that? Because you can also take this component, okay, which is not the master, this is the sum component, and you can change the name to Yuval Cache, and it didn't hurt the master component because it's a sum component. You can also decide to change this image to a completely other image, and it will be completely fine. And for some reason, we have a bug here. Yes, we have another picture, another question. Can you use components across different files? You can use them across different pages, or you can build some kind of database of components and just copy the page of that database of components to your file. So let's do something like that, for example. I have here a database of components, which is some kind of a wireframe design system. I can also send you a link to this design system. It's made by one of my friends, Erez. So we have here a wireframe system. And while it's loading, I really want to solve this bug, but it seems to not work. But anyhow, just know that, yeah, the mask is buggy right now when we are doing components, but in general, you can add here different pictures and different texts, and if you regret, you can just reset instance, and it will be exactly like the master component. Now, what we have here is a system style guide. So we have here many different components, which is in a different file, and we can copy them let's call it wireframe style guide. And we paste it right here. And if I will go to my wireframe section and the assets, I could see the assets that I have from this file. This is how I do it cross file, okay? And this is really cool, by the way, wireframe system that my friend Erez created, and I will also send you a link if you want. But this is really, you can use components here and wireframe really quickly your design. So if you need, and it was very, very accurate with this naming convention and very organized, which is really good for us. Because if you need the pick placeholder, for example, you just need to know the name, and then you can just go to the assets, which is where all of my components, I can find all of my components here on my assets, and you can find them quickly here. So I want the pick placeholder, and I can just grab it here and use it as part of my design, okay? So that's how you do components across different files, and that's about it. So yes, so we have 5 more minutes before we need to go. I haven't had a chance even to touch the design of the wireframes at all, which this is what I plan to do, because I went to this project and I did my research, and already where will you post the links you mentioned? I'm going to upload this talk to an unlisted YouTube, and then I'm going to post it on our newsletter, and you're going to see everything over there. Okay, so everything is going to be on our newsletter. Perfect. And yeah, so my mission for this website was to increase the mailing list of writers in tech, have more subscribers on the channel, on the podcast channels, and introduce a new episode when people want to learn about a new episode. All right, so I have another topic I want to cover, which is prototyping, and then we're going to finish the webinar. Great. So basically you have another tab here, which is prototype. And basically it's very simple. So if you want to have clickable component or clickable group or clickable button, you can just use this circle right here and drag it to the screen that you want. This gray rectangle to lead me. I was forgot how to talk for a second. Cool. And that's about it. So for example, before you came here, I created a prototype that attracts different components to different screens. So very quickly, we just design everything and drag it. And then when you want to see it, you just press the play, which is the preview. You can share prototypes across teams, which is very cool. And yeah, so I created, for example, in the prototype, this is more advanced, but you can create, a sticky header, and I made this button, this is a subscribe button. So when you press it, you can join our mailing list, and I created the whole flow that it will look like an actual flow. So afterwards, I can design it and understand the context. So for example, I had a design decision which was not creating any type of pop-ups, but I want people to easily reach my podcast in their favorite podcast app. So when they press this button, it automatically open like a link to Google Podcast or Apple Podcast or Spotify, and then they can just press it and go to their favorite podcasting app. So that's what I was looking to do here. Yes, and also here, instead of also I created a very fast way to go, because that's the design decision I've made, just to go straight to the app so they could listen, and also on mobile, that was my design decision. but also because one of my missions with this design was to increase my mailing list. So I also create an option to increase the mailing list as well. So that's a little bit about the design decision. Come on. Okay. And yeah, that's about it. And also connection to the blog, newsletter, UX Writing Challenge. That's the wireframe of the actual website, actually. So you can view this as a prototype, just connect everything really quickly. And you can go to prototype settings and then also define exactly what's going to be the trigger. Is it going to be on click, hover, when mouse enter, when mouse leave? You can actually create pretty complicated behaviors already. It wasn't that complicated. And also in Vision, which is a very common prototyping tool, is not that complicated as well. And you have here also this square, which means that this is the homepage. So this is the first page of the prototype. I can also move it to be here, and then this will be the first page of my prototype when I will click play. So let's bring it back here. Also very important. And do you have to, Barbara is asking, do you have everything grouped to this, or does it work with pages as destination for the prototype? So let's do a little bit of organization in the lingo. So this would be a frame. This is how they will call it, a frame. And in order to create a frame, you need to press F. Here on the side, we will have pages, which is different, completely different parts of the project. Like if you are building the playground that we've talked about, so you will build a new page. But pages share the same assets. So if you have a component in inspiration, it will be shared also in the wireframe as well. And yes, and you are asking, do you need to group those? You don't need to group because, okay, let's talk about creating a new frame. So when you want to create a new frame, you can decide here on the right, you press F or just press this button, and then you can decide if you're going to do it as a desktop or as a phone or anything like that. So let's say that you need a desktop. Brilliant. And you don't have to group everything that's going on inside of the frame because your frame is equal to your screen. Okay, so because it's equal to your screen, you don't have to group everything that is going to be on the left. You can see here this icon. It means that this is a frame. So we have here, let's go back to the design tab. I press R and I create a rectangle here. Great. And that's about it. And I don't need to group all of those things. It's just part of my frame here. I'm going to finish in 2 more seconds. And the last question is how to start a prototype. Where is the homepage? So you have here the, when you're on the prototype tab, you have here this rectangle. You can just move it to here or to here. And when you press play, the frame that have a rectangle next to it will be the first one that you will see. Okay. That's about it. We finished the webinar. If you have any more questions, please feel free to ask me. I haven't had a chance to work on the website itself because we had a lot of things to cover. Great. So because you've been part of this webinar, to those of you who haven't participated in our full UX writing training program, you're going to have a link with the 10% discount for the UX writing program that's going to start in 15th of July. This is a 10-week program. Barbara was actually on one of our programs. She was one of our students. And yeah, you can learn a lot of stuff that's related to how you can work better with designers and how you can plan a project and how you can do a UX research and how you can write better better interfaces using your skills and working better in the product team. Also, another thing that you have in our course is we're going to help you to build a portfolio, and you're going to have different kinds of projects that you're going to work on. A lot of fun. So thank you very much for being here with me. It was really nice to have you here, engage with the content. And if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me. It's yuval@uxwritinghub.com. You can also join our Facebook group, which is on this link. And we can wrap it up. Yeah. If you have any more questions, just put it in a group. I would love to answer you guys, and have a great day. Thank you for being here. Ciao.